to be your moderator today in this tech talk, where our topic is called Leveraging AI in GovTech, right? So let's first try to understand what is actually AI, right? So what do you understand by AI? So if you try to look on Google, right, to ask like the short definition for AI, you're going to find a lot of the definitions. But I would say my short definition for AI is actually the simulation of the human intelligence. We're not talking about the human intelligence, we're talking about listening, we're talking about understanding, we're talking about memorizing. And at this point, we have a lot of models, which you call the large language models, which can do all of this work, right? So they can be able to listen, where we can tell, like, for example, you can write a poem and, you paste it in ChatGPT, right? And you ask it, like, tell me why this is a joke, right? And it tells you that. And, the only the humans are the one who have such kind of intelligence and, reasoning, so that they can know that this stuff actually, there is a lot of emotion into this content, right? So, but we see a lot of this AI machine possesses that kind of the same ability. So this is actually, in a nutshell, what we're going to talk about. We are going to focus on the part of the government technology. How can we use this AI, right? So we want to show in this tech talk that actually this AI thing is not something for Google, for OpenAI, right? So we are seeing that every time, every season, they are the one who are releasing all these amazing things, right? So, but we want to show that we can actually try to create all the amazing products and amazing application from this technology. All right. Well, there is one quote I want to say before I start, and it's actually, I don't know if you can hear me actually. No. All right. Thank you. So there is. So there is one quote that I love, which was said by Andrew Energy, right? He's one of the greatest scientists in artificial intelligence of our time, and he said, I wrote it here. It says, AI is the new electricity. Just as electricity transformed numerous industries, AI will revolutionize everything. That's what he said. And we are starting to actually witness the truth of these words, right? We saw that during the Industrial Revolution, electricity has done a lot of transformation, right? So you know that before the Industrial Revolution, actually the people used to operate these machines with their bare hands, right? And with their muscles. And when electricity started to come in, the people who were leading these companies, they started to say that, oh, come on, so there is no need of using this manpower, right? We need to put here a lot of the electricity and it does all this work for us. And we started to see that actually that the companies, the people who started to notice about how electricity can empower their companies, how it can actually revolutionize everything they were doing. These companies actually exploded and they were making all the amazing products and all the amazing results from actually embracing that technology. So the area we embrace these technologies, right? The area is also going to benefit us, right? So I would say it's a blessing to start building a product that revolutionizes AI before everyone else, right? Yeah, because you're going to be the master, you're going to be the lead in this industry. So during this event, we are going to talk about how actually AI is helping us, specifically Irembo, right? A government platform that hosts over 200 services, right? And they're actually they started to know about how actually AI can do tremendous work in the services they're doing. And they started actually to see, like, what are the use cases? Can we employ the AI, right? So what are the things that we can start optimizing by embracing this technology of AI? And we actually started to witness amazing things. So I'll say that there is something that we call in Irembo the AI evangelism, right? So I believe, like, during this tech talk, we are going to learn a lot of things, right? And I want that everyone should live here as an evangelist. So you agree with me? Do you agree with me? All right, thank you very much. So we are not only going to look about what actually Irembo is doing. We are also going to hear from other industry leaders, amazing things they are doing outside here. So we are going to see, like, for us, we as, Africans, right? We as Rwandans, we can also start to make all these amazing applications. And we're going to hear from these people the changes they have been facing. Of course, you can't make all these amazing things when there's no challenge, right? Sometimes actually a challenge is, you can't see it as a challenge, it's actually an opportunity, right? Because you can't grow when there's no challenge. Do you agree with me? All right, so, okay. Allow me to introduce the speakers of today. Well, so we have the amazing speakers of today, and I'm going to start from here. So I will be introducing the speaker, and he will be joining me here on the panel, right? So this is the panel. All right, so we have, the first speaker is Jeremiah Chienda. Jeremiah Chienda is a senior software engineer at Irembo. And he leads the design and the implementation of innovative AI-powered features to enhance citizen engagement and public service delivery. Prior to this role, he was a senior software engineer as well at One Fund. So if you forget everything that I have said about Jeremiah, but just go with that, this is actually the man behind all the AI thing at Irembo, right? So please, a big round of applause to Jeremiah as you're coming in the panel. All right, thank you very much. So we have another person, and he is a CTO from Digital Umuganda, and he's called Samuel Lutunda. Samuel Lutunda, he works at Digital Umuganda to promote African voice technologies using artificial intelligence by building data sets, creating models. Please, these people are creating models, right? They are not using they're not fine-tuning. They're creating the models. And they're also building some application from these models. So please, with another round of applause, let's welcome Samuel Lutunda on the panel. You're welcome. All right, we have another person, and this person, he's the CEO and co-founder of Pindo. And Pindo, what is Pindo? Pindo is a Rwandan AI company on mission to transform communication and digital access across Africa. Oh, this is an amazing mission. Yeah, he's also a passionate software engineer and community builder with over 8 years of experience in tech industry. Prior to Pindo, he held leadership roles at Mozilla and Propagate, where he drove the development of the open voice datasets and AI-powered chatbots for the undeserved population. At Pindo, Muhila is building the next generation of instant communication solution powered by voice AI, optimized for businesses and developers. With a big round of applause, allow me to welcome Remy Muhile on the panel as well. You're welcome. All right, thank you very much. So this is how the thing are going to go. We are going to start with the demo, right? With one of our speakers here. And after looking about this demo, we're going to have some questions you might have about this demo. So we're going to look about, so it's going to be, let me tell it to you before, it's going to be more technical, right? So if you're not an engineer, right? So be prepared. You're going to, you're going to be studying all of this engineering stuff, right? Okay, so it's going to give us a demo. One of the things, it's a very small, right? About one of the things we're actually doing at Irembo, right? Irembo is doing a lot of things, but he's just going to give us a snapshot of what's happening. And after that, we're going to continue with the panel discussion, talking about the amazing things, these people are doing, and we are going to proceed with the QA. And after that, I'm going to tell you what follows. Thank you very much. Let's welcome Maya with another round of applause. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sam. I have to pray to the demo gods that everything works out. So, okay, it's fine. Okay, so yes, I need to screen record. So. Do I need to seek permission to screen record? Okay, cool. So you guys can see my screen, right? So yeah, let's get into it. So this is a basic text to SQL. Actually, this is not even production ready. This is some experiments we're doing to try and see how best we can convert natural language into something that's easy for our merchants and executives to be able to understand. So I'm just gonna do a quick question, why don't we compare the top performing services this year? So basically, to try and get a simple question like this, that's kind of quite ambiguous. Compare top performing services this year, and to try and not only answer it with large language model text generation, but also to provide the correct visualization for the data. Now, what I'll do is also go into sort of the database. So it's a very basic database right here. You've got your applications, your locations, your offices. We can actually look at the data. This is like some of the, don't worry, this is not production data, in case my boss is here. Yeah, so this is very much like fake data, okay? But basically, this is also kind of like the shape of the data that our application is used to having. So moving this to production is easy because you just kind of take the same schema and just load it with real production data, right? So here we've got like a bunch of services. Here we've got like a bunch of applications. Let me try to open that. Yeah, so you can see all these like applications. And so it's like, okay, how do we connect this database, which first you need like SQL knowledge, to something that's you can ask it, with like plain English. So again, like what's the distribution of processing times for applications? Again, quite an ambiguous question, right? So not only are we trying to like understand the question, but we're trying to understand the intention behind the question, and then also like visualizing a different type of visualization, right? Based on the question. So you can see here, we're trying to visualize to say, okay, here's how the processing times are, like it's taking, I think it's like 4 days on average. And this particular distribution is like 2 days. So yeah, we feel there's a lot of use for something like this. And we feel that, we have Irembo Pay, which is our sort of payment gateway, where, we want our merchants to be able to answer these questions very quickly. We feel that AI has an opportunity to kind of enhance the traditional dashboard model, which uses Power BI, which you kind of have to like build a dashboard for 2 days, stick it into the front end, and then, but then the boss asks a very different question that's not in a dashboard. Then you have to like go back to write some queries, and that's if you don't have a ticket, right? And then you give back the data to your boss after a day or two. But we feel like AI can help make this much, much quicker, right? So another like question, I can't type too much, so I'll just like use this predefined questions. Like, what's a percentage breakdown of applications by status? So yeah, again, we could see that another ambiguous question. We are trying to like visualize it as best as we can. So we see that we've got approved applications pending, etc. What I'll do again is just to go into the console, and I've got a few queries. Let me just try to execute these queries to add more data from like this month or last month or whatever. So I'm just going to execute these queries and see how that affects our sort of chatbot, right? Okay, so I've executed that with 50 new rows. And yeah, so we've got like a 77 approval rate. If we try to refresh that and see again, we've got like a 73% approval rate. So the data that we've just added, just to show you that it's not like predefined, right? It's been ingested, and we have a new, as you can see here, we've got like a new processing flag, right? So it's able to pull all this information, and not only accurately, but I feel like relatively quickly, because I think the average time that you get back a response fully generated on the UI is like about 2 seconds or so. So yeah, we're gonna be trying to see how best we can fit this into our product lines. But since we're engineers here, what I wanted to do is just to kind of like give you a little bit of a brief of what's going on behind the scenes, right? So we're really not doing anything crazy. This is kind of like the heart of it all. Just good old prompt engineering, right? Like you're an SQLite expert. Use only SQL syntax, always include a limit, you know what I'm saying? So like we're grounding the large language model, we are giving it very specific instructions, and then we basically are using a large language model from Mistral. It's called CodeStrol. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but through our experimentation, this is like one of the best performing large language models when it comes to like generating code. We've also seen something that's come out from Anthropic with Sonnet, I believe, which is also very, very good. But we've experimented with a lot of LLMs, and we feel like for this particular task, this gives us the best results with like few shot prompting. And basically from this sort of Mistral or CodeStrol latest model, we basically try to make a call using function calling as well, to sort of give it, so this is like a structured call. So also the framework we use is like LangChain. So we use structured output, so that's like function calling to tell it like, hey, we want the data to be in a specific format. And the format that we have is sort of defined in this visualization model, if I may command enter. All right, so yeah, so this is a visualization model. So we like strongly type the sort of format of the data that we want the LLM to respond with. And we tell it like, hey, we want a title, we want the data, we want the label for the x-axis, y-axis, etc. So with that, it's able to sort of use function calling to give us the data in that particular format. And then the rest of it is like, more prompt engineering. A few other things we do here, just to quickly mention, is we give it some examples. So this sort of few shot prompt template allows us to give it some few short examples, in the sense that, questions like, how did we do last quarter, right? Those will depend on what you mean by last quarter at your organization, okay? If you maybe different organizations have got different lingo and different types of I would like to call it syntax, but like the way they speak is different from different organizations. So if you don't do few short prompting, what happens is that the LLM tries to figure out like, what does he mean by quarter? So sometimes we guide it by giving it examples so that it kind of like has a like framework of how we we would query our data if we were doing it ourselves, right? So these are examples that we give it, and yeah, basically that's what I wanted to share very quickly. Before I finish though, as I said, it's not production ready yet. I also wanted to talk a little bit about how we evaluate some of these sort of AI-based applications within Irembo. So as you know, this is like especially like generative AI is like a new field. Everybody's trying to figure it out. A lot of us are like faking it until we make it, right? So, but it's important to have some sort of benchmarks that you use when you're evaluating your models. Otherwise, then it's just like, how good is it? It's like, well, we don't know. We think it's okay, but like, what do you mean by okay? So what we did is we went back and like we looked at the literature. So I know like Sam and Remy, like these guys are experts at like building models and stuff like that in natural language processing. But there's actually a lot of literature out there that can help you to understand like, okay, how do you, if you're building like something like this, text to SQL, or a lot of you are probably building like RAG-based chatbots and stuff like that, like how do you evaluate them? So what we found out is that, these are some interesting ways to evaluate your applications. I'm gonna try and zoom that in. So blue is like straight from like NLP textbook, is like how well does a AI model or a program translate into a particular language. This is very important, especially if you're building a chatbot that's gonna like translate in from like English to Kinyarwanda or something like that. You need to find a way of like measuring your translation accuracy. Another one is like answer correctness. How well does it do at answering the question correctly? We also have answer hallucination. I'm sure we all know that LLMs hallucinate a lot. So we want to be able to measure that and prevent that as much as possible. Otherwise, then it's like you're giving your users a solution that could be telling them inaccurate data. So we spend a lot of time like fine-tuning our RAG-based solutions and our chatbots, etc., to make sure that we get the scores for these metrics as high as possible. We have targets, and we try to meet them over like different iterations. Document relevance is if we're retrieving a document from the database using RAG, how relevant are the documents that we retrieved? And then finally, we also have like human tests, because sometimes you could do all these things, but a real human will care about, okay, I just want an answer. Like, I am trying to apply for a visa, like, is the answer correct, right? So we also do our own tests, which we call like Irembo Academy tests. Actually, every Irembian, which is what we call Irembo people, has to write this test when they join. So we use this same test on our AI solutions to see how well it does, and we give it targets. So for this is for a RAG-based sort of customer service assistant that we're building, which we will launch soon at Irembo. Some of the things that it can do is basically, I'm just gonna refresh that, is basically trying to answer your questions. I personally get a lot of questions from my friends asking me like, yo, I'm trying to renew my visa, or, my kid, should I renew, how do I renew my kid's visa and stuff like that? They're dependent, etc. I don't know the answers, but we have the data. It's just a lot to come through. So we've got this chatbot, this AI-based chatbot that hopefully helps you as well answer some of these questions. How can I correct my birth certificate if it has errors, which, is more common than you would think. And so we try to use, retrieval augmented generation to give you not only an answer that is very fast, as you can see, but also an answer that is grounded in truth. You can actually verify all of this. In fact, we provide an article, which you can go and click here and read more if you're interested in. So this is to remove all speculation, hallucination, and stuff like that. Very quickly, this is the architecture of how we build our RAG-based solutions. We obviously use these large language models, but also behind the scenes, as I said, we use LangChain a lot because we want to experiment with different models. So sometimes you might use like OpenAI APIs, but then you might find that there's a better model, and then how do you switch without changing too much of your code? When we were building the sort of chat, the first demo I showed you, we were using GPT at first, and then we're like, okay, it was a bit slow. So switching to another model was like literally changing one line of code, and that's because we're using Langsmith behind the scenes. LangChain behind the scenes. We also use Langsmith a lot for evaluating because we need to be able to see the traces. We want to be able to see what these models are actually doing behind the scenes, so that's also very important. We use a vector store. So Superbase is actually an interesting choice because it provides a Postgres database, but also provides like a vector database that you can use. It uses PG vector behind the scenes. So you can like vectorize all of your sort of data, private data, put it in there. And then we do, basically we do similarity search between the question asked at the user point and the answer from the vector database. And then we use React on the front end, and yeah, it's traditional sort of architecture if you've built any web applications before. So yeah, that's our demo. Do we have any questions? Do you want to see the other side? Yeah, thank you very much. I don't know, are you regulating, or there seems to be a few questions.
Thank you for the presentation. So my name is Furaha, and because I've been working a little bit on generative AI applications as well, and one of the corner cases that's usually found is if I ask a question, like let's say multiple questions as one question. Let's say, for example, I'm asking about a visa, and in the meantime, I'm asking about a birth certificate. For now, do you think, or have you experimented something like that? And is your model providing like right answers for that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So quickly to answer your question, yeah, at the beginning when we started like building our RAG-based solution as well, what happens is that naively it just goes ahead and goes to fetch sort of documents in your sort of database, and sometimes it would miss basically the question that you're asking. It wouldn't get the right document and stuff like that, and that's why we kind of put in these evaluation scores. So these are actually very objective. They will show you whether or not it's getting the right documents, and like we can even go into the data and kind of see over time like how it's improved with different versions, and we mark the dates, right? So like you can see at the beginning, some of the scores were really, really, not very good. But over time, we would add more features to our RAG, almost like advanced RAG, if you will, to try and answer the question that you're talking about. So in a nutshell, one of the things we did is use multi-query. Right? So with multi-query, a user asks a question. We don't go directly to the document database. We generate more questions from the user question, just so that we can remove the ambiguity from the question. And so we now do like a parallel approach. So we take 3 questions. In our case, we take 2 questions, and then now go try and find documents based off the 2 questions that we've generated from the 1 question that the user asked. And then we compare the documents from the 2 questions to see if there's a lot of overlap between the documents, and that's how we know that the question is being answered correctly. If there's not good overlap, then we go back and maybe clarify the question or find another technique. So yeah, we've got multi-query as part of our architecture. We've also got sentence transformers as part of our architecture. So these are all methods to try and improve the hallucination and ambiguity scores.
Sorry, one last question.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for the answer. I lost my train of thought, sorry. Okay, maybe I should pass on when I remember last question.
That's fine.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. You explained about the architecture and everything. I didn't see anything related to the security. And as you said it before, they ask you like, how sure are you that it's working? You say that it's just working. And Irembo, you're dealing with very sensitive data. So how sure are you that, what is the part of the security and what tools are you using?
Yeah, that's a good question. So to basically answer the question, we're grounded by certain truths about like how to handle data, and if the data has is in any way identifiable or has got identifiable elements in it, we do not actually send data sets to language models. In fact, if I don't know if I showed it in the code before, but basically we ask the model to generate a query, right? And once we get the query, we execute it on our side. So there's no data that's being leaked to the model at all. All the visualizations that you're seeing are being generated on our site. And as you know, we host our own data servers and stuff like that. So the only point we're doing inference with very sensitive data is at the point where we're actually asking it for either code or queries. But we don't actually, tell it like, hey, here's our data. Can you try and find a way of like make it make sense, right? So that's number one. Number two, we actually also do a lot of we try to minimize, even with text to SQL, we try to minimize how much SQL the large language model should generate by using a templating approach, whereby we can sort of infer from the question that's being asked what type of SQL to generate. Because if you think about it, SQL has a pattern, select X from X, where X, you know what I'm saying? So if you can find those patterns, you could easily infer what the inferences in those gaps are and then generate the query without even having to go to the LLM. What you saw with the customer service chatbot, that data is all publicly available. Okay, so the link that I clicked, you can actually go and find it on Irembo Gov support. So the only time that we're building these tools where the data actually goes to the large language model is if the data is publicly available. There's actually disclaimers like this is not data that is citizen data, or this is very, very publicly available articles that we actually share. You can actually read them. There's about 300 of them available on our website. So yeah, those are some of the things that we're doing to improve or to ensure that we're not leaking any information outside. Also, we've actually just acquired a GPU hardware specialized to try and do a lot more private inferences on-premise in Rwanda, so we can if we want to do any inferences on data sets that are a little bit more private, we're going to do it completely on-premise using Llama 3 or any of the other open source models. Lots of seriousness in the room. AI is a serious topic, yeah?
Can have the last question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. My name is Victor. My question is centered around scalability. Let's look at, since you're integrated into the government, have you guys looked at a use case where I just create an account and basically I could ask it to go into my data and use that, like, based on what you just responded of how, like, now I'm like that authority to, since I'm working on, I have tax to clear, I have speeding tickets to clear, I have an upcoming visa to renew, like, I have all this stuff there, and I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know what to do here, I'm still new in this country, how do I go about that? Is that something that we're exploring, or it's going to cost a lot of money, or what do you think about that use case?
So basically
doing your work for you? Cost, that's the whole point. I mean, the whole point of the, I mean, it's to make my life easy. So what do you think about that? Like, in the retrospect of, I'm asking questions, but I'm not articulating the questions well enough.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the email I got from the, let's say from the Reserve Bank or from tax, saying that I haven't filed this. How does this work? Here's my document. Like, now this is me giving sensitive information, but because I've created an account and from my payment history, it could give me an idea, like, what's that use case like?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think as is the sentiment in the room, no pun intended, there is a lot of sensitivity with people. Government data is very sensitive. Yeah, if you're buying land or if you're trying to apply for a passport, we have to be very careful with how much we even help you with AI. So I think there must be a level of a lot of emphasis on the fact that, one, don't just trust these tools blindly, and that's why we make sure that even with our, chat assistant, we're giving you an article at the end of it so that you can actually verify the data. We're giving you a disclaimer at the beginning of the question to say, hey, make sure that you double cross-check this information, etc. And then secondly, we want you to be actively involved in the application process, because this is, again, very sensitive applications. If you erroneously sell land worth 20 million, and then you blame it on our, and then we blame it on OpenAI, right? So it's very important that you are active in the process. As much as AI can be there to help you, we don't want to make it seem as if it's a passive thing to apply for some of these services. Like, yes, we can help you understand. For instance, we can help you understand how it works, what application you need, what requirements you need. But remember, some of these requirements are enforced by the institutions that we represent behind the scenes, right? So we also want to honor their contracts and make sure that we get the citizen as involved as possible, but make the user experience as seamless as possible as well. So that's what I can say about citizen engagement, although there's a lot to be said about what can be done behind the scenes, right? In the stakeholder engagement, how do we process your visas or your passports quicker, maybe using AI? Those are some things that we're also trying to explore. But as far as the citizen user experience is concerned, I think it's very important that we're very explicit to say, hey, we're only here to just give you a few hints, but you need to be actively involved in what you're trying to apply for. But I think the lady, do you recall your question that you had earlier? No? Okay, cool. Thank you very much, and thank you for the hard questions. They definitely kept me on my toes.
Thank you very much, Jeremiah. Another round of applause, please. Thank you so much. That was really, really great. Yeah. And so, if you guys have some questions, I know there are many. So we are going to have another time for the QA, and you are going to have enough time to ask any question. And some of the question, actually, you might find that I'm going to ask them already, right? So if I don't touch on something, so please, this is your time, right? Yeah, thank you very much. Jeremiah, thank you very much for the great presentation. So I just want to ask a question. So very many times as the end users, when we're using these features, so we tend not to think about how you guys, a lot of the price that you're paying to make all these things happen. We don't recognize all the hard work, all the efforts you're doing. So would you kindly shed light or highlight on some of the technical challenges and operational challenges that you faced while you are trying to integrate this AI into Irembo Gov platform?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, there's a lot of, I think what's going on right now is that, as I said, we're all kind of learning on the job. Okay, there's no one with 10 years generative AI experience, right? No matter how long you've been coding, no matter how long you've been an engineer, you are very young at generative AI. So that also, it's both a challenge but also an opportunity, because it gives us an opportunity to kind of catch up as quickly as possible. But it also poses challenges in the sense that there's not a lot of best practices. We kind of have to figure them out on the way. So things like evaluations, things like hallucinations, but also just, new challenges that come up every single time. Injection. People are finding ways to inject queries, using some of these techniques, which is different from this SQL injection that we knew before, right? So there's a lot of research that we have to keep our hands on. So we're like reading papers and stuff like that, and so it's like, how do you balance between like actually building stuff versus like actually watching what Figma just did yesterday or what some company did last week? But it's important to do both, because if you're not careful, what happens is you spend a lot of time in your lab with your eyes closed, and you wake up the following morning and your startup has been killed because OpenAI has released the same thing that your startup has been working on for the last 2 years, right? So it's important to kind of do both. For me, personally, I think one of the biggest challenges that we faced is, I would say, something that we've been trying to deal with over the last 2 weeks is how do you balance accuracy with speed and usability? So at the beginning, when we built our chatbot for customer service, it was naive, but it was very fast. So it would get the questions correct about 70% of the time, but it would like hallucinate a lot because we're using like a naive architecture, like the basic textbook architecture that you're gonna see if you go on Medium or whatever. But for like real life production use case, what was happening is that as much as it was fast, it wasn't very accurate. And obviously we can't push anything out to production without like hitting a particular threshold. Now to hit that threshold, which is a must from my bosses, we have to do a lot of things behind the scenes. Like I was answering to the lady earlier on, like multi-query, RAG fusion, all these techniques to try and make it more accurate. Now we reach 88% accuracy on the Irembo Academy test, which is 112 questions.
Wow, it's amazing.
But then it's slow, okay? Because now it's doing a lot of checks and balances. So now the question is, the boss is like, no. I know it's accurate, but we can't push it out until you get 2 seconds of P99 like latency. So I think those are some of the real life challenges that I'm sure you guys building RAG solutions as well are gonna be facing. Like, yeah, it's easy to get it up and running quickly, but to build something that is measurably accurate, but also measurably fast, I'm sure Pindo will talk more about that as well. So yeah, those are some of the challenges we're facing.
Thank you very much. So I think this is a great advice for someone who wants to get started with this AI and, starting to create this great product. So knowing this challenge that, you're going to reach at a place where actually you need to prioritize accuracy than anything else. So that's really great to notice. So, Remy, I think also you faced a lot of challenges while you've been working on these AI products, but I want you to kind of help us to tell us some of your unique challenges and opportunities when deploying AI system in areas with low internet and smartphone penetration.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, just to say we're actually in a beta testing, so we haven't really deployed. But there's numerous amount of challenges while deploying AI systems. I think the first thing is more of like cultural acceptance for users, right? So a lot of users are not actually used to use AI solutions. And as Pindo, we're building actually voice solution in underserved languages, right? So our primary target is more of like having marginalized communities, people in rural areas. So how would you actually convince a farmer to have maybe a conversation over a phone with a voice assistant, right? So yeah, there's actually a lot of myths. People can actually say that maybe it's a witch I'm talking to because it's not a real person. So yeah, I think it's also some of the challenges we're also trying actually to anticipate, right? Also, this also comes a lot with user education and educating also farmers. It's hard because one of the things they really want to do is just having their harvest ready and getting their money. So yeah, I think also one of the challenges we face most of the time, so I would say infrastructure wise, it's like data. So you need actually a lot of data to feed actually your machine. And also the cost of trainings. So I think actually everyone actually here, training on GPUs is not easy. So we've spent actually a lot of money since. So we started actually working on AI last year in June. So, and then we released actually the first Kinyarwanda voice AI in April. Yeah. So you can actually see the amount of time retraining, testing, evaluating also the model. So those are actually some real actually complex challenges we faced. Yeah.
Okay, that's really great. So I want to come at Samuel Lutunda. So there is the project I've been exploring on Digital Muganda that you guys have been working on. That it's called Common Voice. And it's all about actually creating this public enormous data set for the audio library data. And I want you to elaborate on some of the technical and logistical challenges you encountered while collecting and validating voice data for Kinyarwanda.
Thank you. Yeah. So basically, we do a lot of data collection. We create a lot of infrastructure. And one of our biggest even though now we are working on a new one. It was on a Common Voice platform. So Common Voice was a project started by Mozilla, where they realized that if you are working with voice technology, there are limited open source data, and those ones are only in selected Western language. So they created that platform. It's a crowdsource platform where you can collect data. So currently we have collected over 2,300 hours, but of those 2,000 are validated. So the challenge we faced are twofold. So the first is it's a crowdsource platform, which means everyone can collect any data. I think we were reviewing the data we have, and someone say, "Oh, I found an European who was speaking, but he was speaking gibberish." So everybody can say whatever they want. So in terms of the quality of the data, it's affected. And another thing, and I think if you are doing for low resource languages at a large scale, because I think we had 1.4 million sentences validated. So it's the sentences. At some point, you will scrap the internet all you want, but the sentence will finish. So you now have to pay people to write the sentence. And then also, of course, there is who owns the sentence. Yeah, so I would say those two, being a crowdsource, it's a needed platform. It means everybody can go there and contribute. But then also, in terms of the accuracy, is questionable. But also the sentence. At that time, we didn't have enough, so we had to create our own sentences.
So I like to add a bit on Common Voice. So I've worked actually closely with Sam when I was at Mozilla. I think the team actually really did a great job, especially in Rwanda. If you look actually in the data set now, Kinyarwanda is one of the second largest data sets. Now third? Okay, cool, nice. So yeah, I think the good work, especially in getting the sentences, like running the community, and they really did an amazing job. I was also like overseeing like the work in Uganda and also on Swahili, and yeah, so both actually languages have like 400 hours contributed, and I think Kinyarwanda is 2,300 hours. I think also like a very good job like Digital Muganda did to also salute. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you very much. I think Digital Muganda is one of the leading company that I have seen doing this NLP stuff in Kinyarwanda. So I was really amazed when I was, exploring that model. So great job. Yes. So coming back to, Jeremiah. So I've been thinking about how do you guys, you've talked much about, trying to build these models and trying to make sure that they're actually accurate before you deploy them. And I think that's actually what AI is all about, right? AI is all about prediction, right? Predicting from, the data that it was trained on, from these insights, from all these trends that it was able to capture. And then I want to ask you, how do you make sure that what are some of the mechanisms does Irembo employ to ensure that the information provided by AI system is accurate and trustworthy? And how do you handle the instances where AI might provide the incorrect information for the citizen?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it continues from an explanation that I made a bit earlier on, to say that before answering questions using AI, we want to employ certain techniques in between to kind of act like your filters and some of those techniques, there's a lot of techniques, right? But some of those techniques can actually, so for instance, if you use like agentic RAG, which uses like AI agents, they can actually they can ask themselves questions before answering the user question, like, okay,
Great.
I've got this response that I'm about to send to this user. Can I now take this response and check it for its accuracy before answering the user? And if not, then maybe I should go look for a different data set. So there's many ways in which you can design your systems in saying, okay, if I don't get an accurate answer from here, I should probably try and get an accurate answer from there, et cetera, et cetera. So I think definitely using advanced RAG techniques like those helps with ensuring that you're being as accurate as possible. Having good evaluation metrics also helps. The good thing with Irembo is that we've been doing question and answering for a long time because we do get a lot of the questions. So we know how to answer questions from a human perspective. So it's easy for us to build evaluation metrics that we can now give to our AI-based products. And then we could evaluate those every once in a while. Right now we've just added like 50 or 60 new services. So we need to update that evaluation metric to make sure that we're still keeping the threshold high. Mm-hmm. But also I think finally is just to be able to put as much disclaimer as possible because it doesn't hurt to overemphasize to the audience that, hey, this is AI, it might lie. We do our best for it not to. Because at the end of the day, think about it, it's incentivized to give you an answer, right? So if you're getting paid to answer someone and you will try to find an answer before you can tell them that I don't know, right?
Yes.
So we try as much as possible to understand that, and that's what makes it exciting. But on the other hand, we try as much as possible to be like, hey, if you don't know, so we ground it, right? So if you don't know, please don't, if you ask it questions about like, I don't know, some random, what's going on in the Euros, right? Like, who's going to win the Euro 2024? It's like, I don't know. It's none of my business, right? So you should be able to have that grounding.
Yes.
And then also emphasize to the user. I think by giving users sources of information, I think that's a difference between like ChatGPT and like Perplexity, which I'm sure we've all used Perplexity, right? Where it will actually answer your question, but will give you links to references for you to cross-check. It takes slightly bit more time, but I think that's where AI should be going instead of just trying to give an answer without providing any source of that answer. I think we try to do that from the very beginning as well. In fact, even the model for text to SQL, you saw there was a button there, I didn't click it, but there's a button say show SQL. So you can actually literally click that button, get the SQL code yourself, and go into your database and run it. So everything is transparent. And to try and keep the AI decision making as transparent to the user as possible, we think that's the best policy. Honesty is the best policy. Thank you.
Wow, that's great. So I think also like trying to highlight on something that you've said, adding disclaimer. So I think that's really important, and many people don't care much about that, right? So when you see a lot of terms and permissions, and you are like, so you're addicted very much to go and check it, right, before you go through and read, which is very important. So I think prediction, AI is not much about prediction, and also I believe also for the human beings as well, they're not 100%, right? So that's really great to notice. Well, so I think I want to talk to ask about Lemi, about Pindo. I think so. We've seen the voice AI that was published recently, and I feel like everyone is really excited about the work that you guys are doing, right? Most importantly, that this platform is actually working in our local language, which is really promising. How do you guys, the fact that you are actually like building this voice AI, can you dive deeper into how these technologies work and the specific use cases you are targeting for the business? Because I feel like this is a new platform, right, in this space.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much. So yeah, with our Pindo voice AI, so we both have like speech to text and text to speech. So our currently focus is more of like how do you build like structured conversation on our platform. So a simple example would be, so how do you move maybe a USSD application to a voice application with AI? So it's more like, think of actually a farmer who always actually have to check his balance can just actually make a phone call over IVR and have the balance, right? Perform actions. Let's say if you want user registration, basically. So more of actually in a structured conversation way, it's like paying the traffic fight, because that's actually a structure, is a question and answer. And one of the things you also want the bot actually to be able actually to speak to your users, and you also want also data to be transcribed into your database for actually next other queries. So yeah, our current focus is more of like around that, and more of like people can actually come on our platform, build structure conversations. You can also think of like surveys, so which is also one tool. You can actually reach out to actually rural community, remote community, underserved community, especially like those who suffer from the digital literacy and literacy as well. So yeah, I think that's our primary focus at the moment. Yeah.
All right, that's really great. So I think you guys, you need to so you need to look for Remy, right? For giving you some discount on this platform because it's going to be really amazing. So I also want to ask a question for Sam. Like, having started this journey at Digital Muganda, which is not a very short journey, right? There should be some success stories. And would you tell us on some of the most impactful applications developed by the Digital Muganda so far, and how has the community received them?
Okay, that's a tough question, especially when you're a pioneer. I would say one of our successes is our data sets. We've worked on a couple of them. I encourage all of you to check. We have a Hugging Face page, so you can check Digital Muganda. We are part of a community called Mbaza NLP, so you can check. There's a couple of data sets that are out there that you can use. So we also worked on an ambitious project, I'll call it. Its name was Mbaza chatbot. And the goal was, okay, it's COVID time, people are under lockdown, and how do we provide information to everyone? Because for most of us, we could get the information via Twitter, but what about someone without access to the internet? So the idea was, can we build a voice chatbot? But it was ambitious, so we were like, okay, let's scale it down. Let's start with the USSD, then we'll go with a text chatbot, then we'll have the voice chatbot. At the end, we ended up building the USSD, which I believe all of you have used at some point, the 114 USSD. So that was really helpful because it showed you that, yeah, you can think big, and it's good to think big, but even in the smaller, what you consider, okay, it's a rule-based one, too, it could have had an impact. Because when the Ministry of Health were like, okay, we want to open up the country, but we need to see if people have vaccinated, they were like, oh, there's a chatbot we can use, and that's how it allowed things to move fast. I will emphasize on what Remy is saying. For now, when we see technology, we see it from a Western perspective, we see ChatGPT, but there's so much we don't see, like in an opportunity cost, because it's not tailored to us. We always have to take what someone else did, and we fit within our context. But in this time, I think, and this is what we're all trying to do, is how do we now change the narrative and drive forward what we need, the same way Momo looked at what we had and built upon it. But for me personally, that was a success, but for me personally, the data sets and the infrastructure we've created are some of the things that makes me proud.
Oh, that's great, really. So would you tell us a little bit about because this data set, you are actually dealing with diverse linguistic landscape, and there is a need of accurate and representative data sets for these different languages and all these sort of things. What strategies do you use to ensure quality and relevance of voice data collected?
Yeah, it's a learning process. It's a learning process. For example, when we started, we were using Common Voice, the Mozilla platform, but it was hard to validate. We ended up creating our own platform, whereby we have to validate. So basically, for example, for every good question, you need at least 2 validators. So if 2 validators to approve, to really ensure the quality. If both one approves, the other disapproves, you need a tiebreaker to choose. So we had to create such system. We also had to learn from our mistakes. For example, we did some work on machine translation, and we used the crowdsource method, like we did with text. Basically, we bring in people, we say, okay, if you reach a certain target, we offer you some reward. But people will go and use Google Translate. And then it was self-validating, so people can validate each other. So, okay, you are my friend, I know your work, let's validate each other. We even tried to remove the copy option, where they cannot paste and copy. So assuming, okay, if I type, at least I'll think about it. People found a way, we have multiple browsers. So, yeah, it's a learning process where you learn what works, what doesn't work. And on that, also another thing, because now we have done a lot of work in Rwanda, and now we are looking at other African languages. You'll find, for example, Rwanda, everybody to some extent knows how to write Kinyarwanda, but we did some work on Lingala, and people are taught to write Lingala in university as a linguistic course. So how do you find people to write it? And that's one of the, we're still at the millions of speakers language. So imagine once we reach to maybe a couple of thousand in a certain forest, we'll have to find some other engineering, some other ways. Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting. You guys are doing amazing work. I think when we talk about all of these great applications that these people are talking about, so there are some people who can think that, how do you guys know the problem? How do you identify all those problems that can be solved by AI, right? Because at the end, I don't think that AI can solve any problem, right? How do you generate these ideas? Maybe here can be someone who wants to build a startup, right? Leveraging all this AI technology. So what's the advice would you give to this person, Jeremiah? And what are some of these methodologies that you're using at Irembo to come up like, actually this problem we're facing, we can solve it with AI. So would you shed light on that?
Yeah. First of all, I don't know. Are your questions AI generated, or I want to know who I'm responding to. You don't have to answer that. I think this is a challenge that I myself face. Even just as a software engineer. Is it faster to write the code myself, or to write the prompt to ask the AI to write the code for me? It's like every time I'm trying to write code, I'm having to balance these two. Because you might think, oh, okay, I have AI. Let me just prompt it. And then I could go into a rabbit hole of 2 hours or 3 hours fixing the prompt or fixing the response that it gave me. And maybe I could have written the software myself in 30 minutes. Okay, so it's like a threshold. It might be there, but it might not be the best solution. And to be honest, a lot of these things, you just have to try a lot of stuff. They're, again, like the standards, we're still defining them right now, but you have to try a lot of stuff. So even as you work with GPT or whatever you use during your everyday life, you start to notice certain trends and patterns to say, okay, if I'm maybe generating something completely new, maybe a new file, maybe I could ask it to generate the code for me because it's like greenfield. But if I'm debugging this really, really, really like complex something, maybe it might make sense for me to just give it this bit of context. In terms of like at Irembo, we try and so like we have AI meetups every week where we discuss with different members of the team, people from different departments, engineering, product, CX, PNC, so that we can discuss some of these higher level phenomenon that's going on with AI at the moment. And one of the goals of that is to help all of us understand, first of all, what's a large language model? Is it some small god somewhere that knows all our lives, or is it just some predictive engine that just knows how to generate the next text, right? So trying to demystify some of these technologies in a very basic lay person view, and then try to understand what it's good for and what it doesn't do very well, and understand how it hallucinates sometimes and things like those. So by having this conversation with different folks who are not just engineers, we actually learn a lot about what the use cases, practical use cases are, both within the organization and use cases outside the organization, in the sense that we can build products around them. So the people who understand the domains are not the engineers. The people who understand the domains are people who speak with the customers and the users. So the people in customer experience, the people in marketing, the people in communications, the people in PNC, human resource. Those are the people that we meet with every week, just to play games, ask each other questions about GPT and stuff like that, just so that we understand what these things are. What a prompt is, what a token is, these basic things that, we may take for granted if we're engineers, right? But it's important that everyone in the business understands what these things are, so that they can now start to frame the intuition behind it. Because the more they have conversations about them, then they're like, oh, actually, this is a problem I'm facing this week at my work. I think this thing that we spoke about at the meetup today could help solve that problem. And some of the problems we've seen are like translation problems, workflow automation problems. Our last meetup we spoke about AI agents. How can we use AI agents to automate workflows like hiring, for instance, which can be very, very tedious if you're doing like hiring and you have to sieve through thousands of CVs. But we won't know what those use cases are until we talk to the people who actually do the hiring. But once they understand how these workflows, how these AI tools work, then they can be like, oh, actually, this problem, we feel like, can you build something for us in this particular thing? Because we feel like this thing can be solved by AI. So yeah, I agree with you. Having an intuition, which, you could just close your eyes and, kind of just know, right? That this is an AI-able problem, and this is not an AI-able problem, because not all problems are created equal. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jeremiah. That was really great. So I think, so adding to what you've said already, so you just need to build with the people, right? So you don't need to think for the people. You just need to go there and, get to know what actually the people are facing. That's when you're going to know, like, what is going to be this great solution can I come up with. Thank you very much for highlighting that. So Rem, talking about the mission of Pindo, right? How do you see AI and voice technologies playing a role in bridging the digital divide in Africa? Yeah, as we've seen that you started embracing AI.
Yeah. So I think my view on AI on the continent, it's something actually coming to solve a lot of problems. So first, we have 400 million people on the continent who are illiterate. So how will those people actually engage with technology, right? And most of them, they don't know how to read, they don't know how to write. But you will see eventually that they can converse, they can actually talk to people, right? And seeing also voice technology, because we're actually coming from actually a lot of generation of technology. I think the first generation was actually like desktop app. We move actually to the web app, and now, so we have mobile, and also like chatting interfaces. So, and voice for me is the next future, and also like unlocking a lot of opportunities for those communities. So also like bringing them actually part of actually the World Wide Web. Yeah.
For the introverts, that's going to be a great tool. Yeah, that's what's kidding. All right, so Digital Umuganda, what are some of the key priorities do you have for the 2024 and beyond? What are you planning for us, guys?
Okay, so we have two programs. The first one is called Open Data for All. And basically, it's a program, it's an African-wide program to create data sets, particularly voice. We focus on voice, machine translation, and text. Okay, voice as speech to text, whereby we teach the computer to speak, and then the computer can write. And then we have also text to speech, where now the computer, you can write and the computer will read it out loud. So we have those three programs, and we just finished recently for collecting for Lingala and Shona. And we are about to start for other 4 languages, including Fulani, Somali, Wolof, and Malagasy. So those are in the pipelines, which if someone wants to play around with multimodal data sets, the ones we released is called AfriVoice, has multimodal. So it has images, it has voice and text. So you can play around and try to see what you can do with it. And then we're also working on text to speech. So we've been working with our partners to generate like a universal script. And that universal script, we can collect multiple languages. So we are currently working on Lingala, Shona, Somali, Zulu, and Xhosa. So those are some things in the pipeline. And like I said, at the end we publish on Hugging Face, so always check. Another one is the Mbaza project. So Mbaza, like I said, the goal was to create a voice chatbot. But there's a lot of complexity, and I think a lot of them were mentioned, accuracy, trustworthiness, and then latency as well. So after the project ended, we decided to open source a lot of those. So those are like basic infrastructure. You don't always have to reinvent the wheel. So, and we created a community whereby basically we want to create some open source tools. One thing about NLP, and all of us, we like LLM, but you'll find that, for example, we don't have a Kinyarwanda spell checker. So spell checkers have been around for a long time. And it's not flashy, but it's needed. When you are working with voice, you'll find that at some point, especially text-to-speech, you'll have to deal with numbers to words converter. And currently, we don't have much. And also, there is the complexities of the language. When you say umwana umwe, it's fine. But when you say abana babiri, so you have to say abana babiri. But you say utwana tubiri, so the two is not always tubiri or kabiri. So you have to take into account those things. And those tools are still needed. Those are basic tools that we must take into account. And I think we've been talking with Jeremy, and he did some work on text-to-speech. There is the Bantu language has tones and vowel lengthening. So yajiye, 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 all of them are written the same. So when you are trying to solve those issues, at some point you will hit a wall and you'll have to figure things out. So the Mbaza platform is an open source platform, and we invite, it's everyone. It's open for enthusiasts. It's open for companies. It's often for individuals. Individuals includes language enthusiasts, includes software developers, it includes NLP engineers, so that we can create such base, so that if someone wants something, they don't have to go around and reinvent the wheel. So yeah, those are those two projects we're working on, and I will invite you to check them out, and we can talk more if you want.
All right, that's great. It's really amazing that you are even extending to other countries. We can't wait to see Rwanda reading in this industry. Yeah, thank you very much. All right, so in this session now, we're going to open it for the QA. And let me see, guys, if there are some questions. If there is something that we haven't touched on, please, this is your time. Don't leave when you have any question, right? So this is why we created this Tech Talk. So let me see some questions. I think I saw one question there when we were during the discussion. Do you still have the question, please? It's answered. Okay, all right. So please help us with that. Okay. So would you speak?
Actually slow.
No, a little bit louder.
AI as a product and AI as a user, as a future. And when they highlighted it to individuals in the middle, so people are hoping a product, AI as a product. So how do you feel when a bigger tech company comes into your space and literally give the same feature? How do you navigate that? Now, I'm not talking as an engineer, I'm talking more or less as a investor to understand that use case. Now, you could have the argument that says, we had the head stats, a iterated model, but I mean, you're dealing with a company that could spend $100,000 just doing fine tuning. Maybe that's your whole budget for the next 6 months. So, just out of curiosity, how do you navigate that? Or what do you think?
Who takes the? Okay.
Let me actually take this. Yeah. So I recently actually listened to a podcast. I don't know if you know WebAssembly AI. So they do a lot of speech transcription, and so actually one of the things he mentioned was more of because they also asked him the same question when he was trying to raise his first round. That was back in 2017. And so his answer was more of because some of the investors were asking, so Google is trying to do it. Why are you doing that, right? And his answer was more of like, you're competing with a product manager at Google, and you as an entrepreneur should always actually like focus on your mission. And one thing as well, like the AI market is big. I don't think actually like any single person actually will cover the whole space. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I think what I'm also personally seeing in the industry is that we're seeing more and more specific use cases for AI from tech companies. So a good example is like what I mentioned with Mistral, even Claude with Anthropic. They're starting to find little niches that they're becoming very, 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 very good at. Instead of trying to compete with, let's say, ChatGPT, which is a very general purpose foundation model. So now you're seeing companies like Mistral building like a model that's very good at coding. And very soon we'll see like people even taking all the resources and building like a specific part of coding, you know, maybe just, I don't know, answering or maybe SQL or whatever. So I think that's one of the things is that when you niche out, then when people want a specific solution, then they are forced to go to you versus if you try to build a generic solution, even if the other competitors or the big companies build it, it has too much of a surface area. So sometimes it doesn't solve your specific solution very, very well. So yeah, niching, and it could be niching into a particular spoken language like Kinyarwanda or Swahili or whatever. If you're the best Kinyarwanda sort of model, then yeah, Google can come in and build their own, but then they also have to think about Vietnamese and like Nepalese and all these other languages. So they might not actually be very specific on what the research that you've been working on. But I think that's a good question, and the reality is, I also don't know, right? Like there could be something that just completely even makes this conversation that we've been having completely irrelevant tomorrow. So that's how fast the industry is moving.
Yeah, I think when M-Pesa and Momo were starting, you could have probably asked the same question and said, we have Visa, we have MasterCard and the others. Why should I invest in you? But the thing is, and there's still a lot of potential in Africa. It's just we have to find it. We just have to dig and find the diamond in the rough. And yeah, trust me, people, for example, people working in the mines, you'll never hear about them, but they have a lot of money. So if you create a business around them, people cultivating potatoes, they have a lot of money, and that's just in Rwanda. So there is a lot of people who are doing their daily work, but where you can provide them value, and you are able to build something. But Google will not know that. Google will never reach that, and the big tech will never focus on that because they always look at scale and they don't have a niche.
Also adding on that, I think one of our investors actually invested in two similar companies, Pindo and Lelepa AI. So basically, they also like building actual languages for languages in Southern Africa. So more of like Shona, and us we're also building languages for East Africa. So yeah, they also have a clear vision that the market share is actually really big. Yeah.
Do we have another question?
All right.
Thank you so much, the panelists. I have a few questions here, and the first is about training the models. For Irembo, it may be such a straightforward thing to train the data they have, but for the crowdsourced data, are you sure that you are feeding the models with accurate data? And second, don't you think voluntarily some people training models can voluntarily train with wrong information to mislead people? And the other question will be around the adaptability of AI, especially in Africa. We've seen cases where, like, once OpenAI announced the partnership with Stack Overflow, people started deleting their responses. How is the adaptability, especially in Africa? And the last one will be about voice AI. We've seen some delays in the response time. I've tested the one for Pindo, and not only that, I've also tested the one for IBM. There is still a delay in the response time. Are there specific challenges that voice AI is facing that is introducing these delays?
Who takes that, Jen?
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think actually like latency with AI model is actually one of the complex challenge I think every company is facing. You also have like ChatGPT whenever you send a query, so it will take also like a couple of times. So, but like with advancement of technology as well, like graphic cards, like GPUs, I think we were able actually to overcome that. But like in with voice, I think you can also fix the latency part, right? Because think of actually having a conversation with someone when you're asking a question. So you have like, let me think about it. So you know you could actually add also like that within actually your voice. But I thought a text-based application is quite challenging because someone just wants to read something there. Yeah. So let's actually hope that NVIDIA will be actually like pushing more powerful cards, and also like see.
All right. Does it make sense?
Another question.
First, no questions.
Okay. I think yes. The first one was about training the model stuff, right?
Yeah.
What would you say?
You know, when GPT-2 came out, people were saying this model is too powerful, we should not open source it. Yeah, so there is always people who are afraid of technology and people who are for technology, and it's a balance, you know. Technology is a very powerful tool. So I will understand, even when the first GPT-3 came out, you know, there were still people who were like, oh no. And then when ChatGPT came out, but somehow people found a way to self-regulate, and of course governments are really thinking about it. And then on us, on the crowdsource part, Wikipedia is free. It's not a reliable source of information, especially for academicians, but we all check it. So somehow there is a way society regulates itself. And there can be some bad apples, but usually they are very small compared to the rest, because the rest, they really want to contribute. At the end, it's for their own good.
All right, I think it was answered. All right, thank you. Do we have another question? Okay.
Okay, thank you. My name is Clothing, and we've been talking about AI too much, and I just wanted to divert a little bit. Yeah, I'm working in a company where the feedback is very important. I mean, it's actually the key. So I would like to ask, how do you intend to incorporate the feedback from your clients? I think that goes to everyone there. Yes, and the other thing, how comes no one is talking about the job opportunities? So we are all young, probably some are looking for jobs, others are looking for, we are open to work. So how can we approach you guys if someone is really willing to work? Some are having background in AI stuff, others are not. So but for those who have a little background and they're eager to learn more and work, how can we approach you? Thank you.
I think that's a very good question. I'll only tackle the last part. We have a hackathon coming up, you can see on your screens. I think that's a great way to start. We're going to be there. I think Pindo is going to be involved. There's going to be more information. So yeah, come to the hackathon, let's talk. As I said, we're all learning as well. So that's a great opportunity to meet and network, but also to see what we're doing at Irembo. We hire a lot of interns. I don't have the numbers on top of my head, but I think we probably are one of the biggest hirers of computer science interns in Rwanda. So yeah, we're doing our very best to make sure that we provide the opportunities to everyone, right? To be able to participate. But come to the hackathon. I think we're going to talk more. We're going to have a lot more time to really get our hands dirty.
I think the first question was on feedback. So how do we receive feedback? How?
Yeah. The question is, how do you incorporate those feedbacks, and how do you tend to work from to how do you work? How do you intend to better than being work?
Yeah, thank you very much. So we launched our beta voice AI in April, so we've been receiving a lot of feedbacks. I think I also received one today, and so especially in our TTS. So our model is very hallucinating. So yeah, and I was mentioning that on the next version will be improved. So yeah, we really actually get feedback from our users. So you can actually reach out to us like on the website if you see actually something not working properly, and then really appreciate that as well. Yeah.
Now, when you're going to consider the money, really that if you post a feedback and you're asking your friends to look for it to be considered, for instance. So how do you? Okay, I was just scared.
I think I'm louder.
Yeah.
Okay. I was asking if I post my feedback, and I feel like it's very important. Okay. And I feel like it's very important to the community, for instance. So, what are the criteria that you consider when you're going to focus on it, so that you can probably focus on it during your development cycle?
Yes. Yeah, we really actually track our feedback. But I think as Pindo, we receive actually less feedback than Irembo. So maybe I can also push push actually like an answer. Yeah, we receive feedback, and then so especially like on bugs or maybe actually something not working properly, and we also like add it on our roadmap. It might not actually be very important now to be fixed now, but like it's we really take care of them. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. I think we are just ahead of time. We're going to have a network session, guys. Right? So after we finish, so we're going to have a network session, so you can, hang out and ask anybody you want to. So, you have a question? Okay, last one. All right, he's my manager.
Yeah, okay, my question is, I would say, a bit technical or philosophic, but around AI. It's about agent AI. I will ask, for your point of view today, are you more confident with the capability of agent AI, or are you afraid of what can be done with that today?
So yeah, I think agent actually not really afraid, because they all actually contribute to like a very good cause. So especially if you can also like automate like a lot of things. So but it's also like it's I think especially for us at Pindo, so we haven't really actually like touched actually the LLMs, basically like building actually maybe like small model per verticals, or different type of verticals, because we're really focusing more of on structured conversation at the moment. I think it's also like a very big issue like to tackle. Previously I also mentioned that our like the primary use case that we were trying to like help for some of our customers, it's how do they move actually like basic USSD processes over like voice flow. So
Yeah, just to put the in context, why I'm talking about to be afraid is, so let's imagine a world where we have a set of features that are fully available, and you have also a set of agents who know where to find those features. If you have it, they know where it is. The next type of job is people who know how to use agent to deliver their job, basically. So it's just to go in the direction of the ladies. Yeah, in the AI area, for my thought, you need to go in the area, but also make sure that you understand really well how those agent AI stuff work, and be able to leverage on it really carefully. But it is coming, and for me it's the future. For the 5 to 10 years, yeah. Today I'm not afraid, but for the 10 years, probably it.
Right. Thank you very much for sharing that. So, as we are closing, I have some rapid fire questions for you. So, and it's going to be a marathon, right? So, and I want you guys to answer in not more than, let's say, 6 words, right? At max 6 words. 6 words or less. Okay, who goes first? I see Jeremiah is prepared. Okay, so we go. Jeremiah, what scares you most about AI?
My job.
So there is a meme I have seen that someone was saying that.
I want AI to do my dishes and and I keep managing my stuff. All right, thank you very much. So another thing, what was your first impression using ChatGPT? You, Jeremiah.
Magic.
Magic. Wow. That's so amazing. Thank you. We go to Sam. Would you be comfortable seeing an AI doctor?
Not at the moment.
It's really great. Okay. Would you feel safe in a plane that was being piloted by an AI-powered system? You guys are jumping here and you don't believe it.
A lot of the planes processes are currently automated.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then you will be comfortable.
No, basically, what I'm saying is, it's already happening. Yeah. Okay, it's not run by AI, but by software.
Okay.
So we
All right. So we are limited to 6 words, right? So we go to Remy. You think that AI will turn on humanity one day?
That's a generic question I can't answer because, speaking 10 years back, nobody actually knew that you can actually reply an email over GPT. So yeah, let's see what it gets.
Okay. Well, so who is better at making decisions, humans or AI?
Human, of course. Yeah.
Oh wow! A big round of applause to our panelists. Thank you very much, guys. We are so excited to have you, and thank you very much for sharing all of these experiences and knowledge. So, we are going to have I just apologize, right? So we're ahead of time, I see. But we have a very short thing, right? That we want you to tell you about, and it's upcoming. So, and maybe Jeremiah has highlighted a bit about it. And allow me to welcome the director of engineering and product at Irembo to talk a little bit about this upcoming event. Thank you very much.
Okay, good evening everyone, and thank you very much for joining this Tech Talk. I hope that you learned a lot. I hope that you got inspired by the speakers, by the ideas, and I hope that you can now start your own journey on AI. So what I just want to talk about is the hackathon that you're organizing 23 to 25th of August. You get to learn more about it in the coming weeks, so I encourage you to follow us on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and then our social media page. But what I can promise you is that it's going to be a very big event, the most important event in Africa this year about AI that you're organizing, so it's going to be really big. It's also a full hiring opportunity, so what we can guarantee is that people will come at the hackathon. Some of them will get hired by Irembo or by sister companies that you are organize the event with. So, but it's also going to be a big learning opportunities where you will have the opportunity to learn a lot about AI and to play with the latest tools. So we are making sure that, Jeremiah and the team, they are making sure that you will be able to touch all those LLMs. We are buying GPU servers so that you guys can play with it here in Rwanda. So you are going to get the best of the best that you can get with AI right now. We are going to give you all the tools, all the facilities. We also have a very nice campus where you can spend these 2 days because it's the hackathon. You have to spend 2 days in the same place. So we are making sure that we are going to have a great experience there, and then so that's it. We are looking forward to host you at Irembo from the 23rd to the 25th of August. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right. As we close, we have some refreshment prepared for you guys at the kitchen, right? So just go there while you're just hanging out with these great speakers we have today. And as we close, allow me to thank the host of today who has hosted this Tech Talk, and that's Irembo. And I want to thank them very much for appointing me to be the moderator for this Tech Talk. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, guys, for your great questions. And thank you very much, our pioneers. They have really given us a lot of skills to their experiences that they have been undergoing through over this time. All right, so a big round of applause as we just close up for the Irembo. Thank you very much. This is the end of Irembo Tech Talk. Episode what? 9. Episode 9. Thank you. See you guys to the next episode 10.